Welcome to the Randy Gravitt Leadership Podcast, where we help you lead the hardest person you will ever lead, yourself. Here's your host, someone who believes leadership begins at home, Randy Gravitt.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode with a leader. And today I'm really excited to have one of my daughters, Rebekah Kerr, has joined us. And I'm excited to have you, Rebekah, because you're not only a great kid, actually my favorite, don't tell your sisters, but you're also a great young leader and you work for a startup. And so I can't wait to hear some about that. We've got a bunch of people I'm sure who listen who are trying to start things, and you've got some good advice I know for us today. But we're going to get to learn all kinds of things. We're actually out here having coffee on the porch. It might be kind of loud out here with the birds and everything, but we're drinking, if you notice, out of your out of the mugs that you made. So welcome to the show, Rebekah.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And thank you. So I want to get a little bit of background. I know the story, but maybe the people who are listening don't. So tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then after I was born, you and Mom moved to the Atlanta area and have raised the four of us here. So I grew up just south of Atlanta for about 18 years and then went to college at Covenant College, which is on Lookout Mountain.
Go Scots.
Go Scots. And it's in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. So I met my husband there and we got married and lived there for about 6 months. And then he got a job with USA Baseball and we moved to Durham, North Carolina. And we were there about 2 years. And then just this past weekend, we moved back to Chattanooga.
You're coming back to your roots.
Exactly. Back to Tennessee.
That's good. So let's talk a little bit about your work. I know you're involved in a company called Shelly Cove. Started, I believe, out of a dorm room there at Covenant, if the story that I have is right.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about Shelly Cove.
For sure. So I am the senior graphic designer there, and I'm also the director of community outreach. And the company started 5 years ago. This past July was our 5th anniversary. So it has been off the ground for a while. It's doing really well, but the CEO, Matt, started this company when he was in college and started it with his parents. And they went in together on this idea that Matt had, thinking sort of preppy Southern shirts would sell really well, kind of a specific market. And it has been from the beginning a give back company. So 10% of the profits or more are donated either locally or to the Karen Beasley Sea Turtle Hospital in North Carolina. So he started that a while back, and now here we are doing really well 5 years later. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's just kind of exploded. So if somebody's out there listening and they're, people trying to start stuff, what advice would you have for someone who's trying to get something up off the ground? I know you're not like the entrepreneur behind it, but you've been there for a while and you've been helping with this thing and you guys have been grinding on it, and now you've just exploded over the last couple of years. What advice you got for us?
Yeah, I would say my best piece of advice is just to work really hard and surround yourself with people who work hard if your tendency is to not work hard. Because people around you will motivate you and inspire you to keep going even on the days you're feeling like you don't want to do it or you hit a roadblock. If you have encouraging voices around you, you're more likely to keep going.
Yeah, that's good. That hard work, that always does take us a long way. And you said if you don't work hard, get people that do work hard. If you don't work hard, you're probably going to have a hard time growing and building something.
Totally.
For sure. So one of the things that you do there is you are a designer of products, and you guys, like I said, T-shirts, you have all kind of other things now that you do. But it really has been crazy to watch how it grows. But the whole design side of your life is, I've had a front row seat to it, but you've always been, I would say, designing. Can we talk a little bit about that and how art has been such a big part of your life?
Yeah, sure. So I have always liked being creative. I don't think that I necessarily have the greatest talent of anyone out there, but people definitely encouraged me and said I had talent, and whether it was true or not, it made me believe I did, and it made me think.
Made the coffee mugs.
Exactly. It made me think, well, I should go for it. I guess I should try to take art classes and try this and that. So when I was little, I liked to draw and paint and sidewalk chalk like a lot of kids. And then I started loving to cook when I was in probably middle school. And
I can't wait for dinner tonight. It's gonna be good.
yes. And I loved playing outside. You can be creative outside as a kid. I feel like I was always making like pretend dinners out of pine cones and mud and those sorts of things. So I've always loved doing that. And then I did wind up getting an art degree in college, and now I am doing it as my job full time.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And one of the other things that your other degree is in community development, which that's part of your job as well. So it's kind of cool that you've actually been able to take the things that you went and learned and now apply them to your big girl life, right?
Yes, I'm super blessed. A lot of people don't have that same story. It is not always easy to get a job in your field.
Yeah, that's for sure. So a lot of creatives could be listening right now. Where do you get your ideas? Because as I've watched your life, you really do make the world a prettier place. It's like you know, you're painting, you're cooking, you love to garden. I mean, there's all kind of things that you flowers, all this kind of stuff. So where do you get these ideas for the things that you create?
I would say most of my ideas I get from seeing other people's work. I had a teacher tell me one time all the best artists are thieves. And so great artists steal, which means you see someone else's work and then you think, how could I do that differently or better or be inspired by them to create my own thing? Obviously not plagiarizing, but
Right.
but stealing from other people's ideas and then the things that you're divinely inspired to do on top of that and creating this new hybrid thing that's uniquely yours.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I get a lot of my ideas from online, things I see outside, things I see people post on social media or in photography, you know, everywhere.
Yeah. So are you gathering all the time, or do you even think about it, or you just, how do you do that intentionally? Talk about that.
I think for my everyday tasks, I do it unintentionally, like cooking. I am unintentionally gathering ideas like in the back of my brain to make some type of new food or dish that I've never made before. And I'll see something that someone else has cooked or a restaurant menu, and I'll think, I never thought about putting those two things together before. Or sometimes it's just trial and error. I think a lot of art, whether it's videography, painting, cooking, singing, it's just trying something and failing at it and realizing, oh, that didn't work. Or you get something and you're like, oh my word, this is phenomenal. This is the best thing I've ever cooked. And, it's hit or miss, but it's trial and error.
So talk about, so we're holding we got your, thanks for the French press, by the way. It's really good coffee. And so we do have your mugs here that you made, your childhood mugs that you gave to Mom and me, your first mugs, and you just said a minute ago, they're cool. I might get these back. But I noticed this one has the handle's a little bit janky, wonky, whatever the word is. And so they weren't perfect. Talk a little more about how you have to be willing to fail, to try stuff, and talk about how the process of trying, messing up over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden you're going, wow, this is great.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I don't know that I have the most talent at art. I think everything takes practice. I didn't become good at throwing things on the wheel and then glazing them and matching the right glazes and all those types of things, specifically when it comes to ceramics. Like, it takes hours of practice, and then even after you've practiced for hours and hours, you're still going to get a wonky handle. And so I think you have to really put in the time to hone your craft. I mean, I think everyone would probably say that who is worth their salt in whatever the expression is.
Yeah, whatever.
To really work on trying to figure out how to make something that looks good. And it doesn't just happen right away. You have to make a lot of things that look bad, that are not going to make you any money.
Yeah, that's good. And I think one of the things I've always noticed is you've never really, it didn't seem like you were doing the things for the money, or that wasn't the
Right.
primary motivation. Especially somebody let the dogs out, by the way, in the neighborhood here. We got the dogs going crazy. It's cool.
I think a lot of creative people just start out, and I don't know if this is true, but this is my perception, is that a lot of creative people start out doing something that is in the creative field because they enjoy doing it. It's like a side hustle or a hobby, and they think, well, maybe I could sell it, but I don't know that, it's worth that much. And so then they're just doing it already. And then they realize, oh, people would pay for this. And that's usually, I think, how a lot of people start selling their work, whatever it is.
That's great. So, author Stephen Pressfield has written a book called The War of Art. It's a flip on Sun Tzu's Art of War. And he says that, Pressfield says that if you're going to be an artist, there is a battle going on with basically procrastination. It's real easy to get bogged down and distracted and all that. And, we, obviously as creatives listen, I want to hear you talk about that, because you probably
I do.
have your moments.
Mm-hmm.
So
that book would have called
produce
me
a lot
out.
of great stuff, but is it easy for you, or are you like most artists?
No, I'm like most artists. If most artists are procrastinators, I am really good at doing things really fast at the last minute. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's probably better to be a planner, but I do procrastinate really poorly or really well. I don't know, whichever way you want to say it. I'm a good procrastinator.
So how do you overcome it? I mean, because you do produce all this stuff. So how do you end up getting something done if you have this tendency to say, I really don't want to do this right now?
Well, I think, everything is seasonal. Like I'm not always feeling like I need to procrastinate or, honestly feeling lazy, like I don't want to do this right now. Some seasons I feel really motivated and want to do work. As soon as there's a project in front of me, I feel inspired. I feel excited. I want to do it right away. And then some things I just think, I don't want to do this. And so I think part of it's seasonal, but then the other part is when I'm feeling like unmotivated to do a task, it's really important for me to get out of the house because I work from home and to go be with other people.
Just a different environment.
Totally, a different environment, and to be around other people while I'm working. I think when you're by yourself working, it's really easy to get distracted. Even with other good things, I feel like I'm the queen of like starting a load of laundry when I should be starting a project for work or, something else. And it's easy to do a lot of other things that could be helpful, but they're not the number one thing on my to-do list. So getting out of the house, being around other people always keeps me more diligent.
So if there's a leader out there that is struggling to lean in right now, we're obviously in a time of disruption. Everybody's out of the office anyway. It's kind of crazy. It might be a temptation to disengage and pull back, and you're not as physically present. So sometimes we can even not be emotionally present. I mean, what would you say to a leader who's struggling to be engaged, even from the standpoint of being on their team? Like, how does that feel for a person if your leader's not leaning in? Thankfully, you got some really good leaders that are leading your company. But as you think about, you've had leaders before that maybe they didn't care as much or whatever. Like, talk about that a little bit.
My gut reaction to the answer to that question is it's okay, actually. I would say because everything does happen in seasons, I would want the person out there who is struggling right now to stay engaged, to know that it's okay to have grace with yourself and know that this is a really crazy time of life.
It's a little weird right now.
It's okay that you can't be fully engaged all the time. Now, I know it's the best thing, but I would say have patience with yourself and understand, like, it's not going to be like this forever. To get back engaged, I would say surround yourself with people. That's how I do it. That's how I try and get back on track when I'm feeling a little down and out about being creative or work or whatever it is. I have to get with the right people who are going to encourage me and motivate me to get back into gear.
Yeah, I think isolation is dangerous for a leader. I really do. I think it's dangerous for anybody. And and so what I hear you saying is the people around you can really help you with your procrastination, with your lack of engagement, whatever it is. If you're surrounded by people, I mean, you feel a little more accountable, don't you?
Totally. And I think too, you have to be passionate about the thing you're working on in order to not want to procrastinate. I think a lot of times leaders have things on their plate that they don't want on their plate, but they have to do. And if you're not passionate about it, know that it's normal to not want to do it right away. And does that mean that you shouldn't do it right away? No. But if it doesn't get done, you're not like crazy for not wanting to do it. If you're passionate, you're going to want to go for something. But if it's just something on your to-do list, those are the places you're going to have to find strategies to really keep yourself on track.
That's good. Talk a little more about those strategies. One of the things I think we would both agree on is that you have to have some things that replenish you to grow you, but to put energy back into you, because you're going to get drained the more you do, and if you're not careful, your tank will run low, as we talked about earlier in the week. So, what are some hobbies you have? Let's use hobbies as an example. What are some things you like to do outside of work to keep you fueled up for work?
Yeah. Well, I love to cook. I've talked about that a little bit already. It is a way that I can be creative, but it's also just fun for me. It's like a science experiment that I could try to make the same meal 3 times in a row, and I don't follow a recipe. I can, but I just don't like it. I like to just make my own thing, and so that's really fun for me. You can make the same thing 3 times and it'll never be the same. So I like that. And then I also don't like it because sometimes I want to replicate the genius of a meal and I can't do it. So I should write things down, but I don't. Okay, so cooking is one. Another hobby that I have is gardening. I love to garden, which again, seasonal. I feel like it's a theme coming up, but I am a summer gardener. You can garden and farm all year round. It's harder in the winter, so I don't. But I just had a garden this past summer, and for all the leaders out there who are trying things and even things they love and they don't go well, I got 1 tomato that I didn't even eat out of my garden this summer. So be encouraged and know that
And you're a good
not
little
gonna work
gardener.
out.
And actually, but it was great here because your mom, as you know, does not have the most green thumb. My mom
Didn't.
and her mom were both the gardeners, and mom was like not so great, and you became her little garden coach, and so we've had all kind of peppers and all kind of fun stuff here at
Yes.
our house thanks to you coaching mom. And mom's like Miss Green Thumb now. It's just all the
Yeah.
pretty plants out there.
I
It's
gave
kind
all my gardening energy to mom this year,
and
and
she
my
got
garden
it.
got nothing, and
Your garden got
y'all's was
nothing, and so
everything.
we've been enjoying all kinds of fun stuff. So, but one of the things I think mom did this year, as she's put more time into it, you talked earlier about working hard and being willing to grind away at whatever it is you're passionate about. And I think one of the things that's happened here is mom's put more time into it. We put more energy into it, bought little, all the stuff, whatever we
Totally.
got.
And
And so you kind of get, I mean, really it's almost the old reaping and sowing. You do reap what you sow and the time you put into it and all that. Talk a little bit about that when it comes to gardening. I mean, I think I've watched you really enjoy watching things grow, all that. Say a little more about that.
I feel like I could talk about gardening for so long. It is such a miracle that you can put a tiny seed into dirt, dirt, and a giant tree can grow, or any piece of fruit or any vegetable can grow. Everything we eat has to either eat a plant or be a plant. It is insane. It is such a miracle. And all I do is put water on it. I don't do anything but put water on it and it starts growing. That's why I love gardening. It just feels like I'm watching a miracle every day. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. But also to your point about having to, 10 things and it's hard work. I think I got 1 tomato this year because we traveled all summer.
You've been traveling a lot.
And I didn't water. So I didn't do the thing I was supposed to do. And so they didn't,
Yeah.
they weren't able to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So you talked a little bit about plants there for a second, and I want to kind of go down a different road here and talk a little bit about health and wellness. One of the things that we talk about here is we want to try to help people lead themselves a little better, and health and wellness has always been a part of our family. It's been important in our family, but you have really sort of branched out on, I'll call it branched out on your own, and you've started to explore some holistic stuff and educated yourself and maybe even a lot more than what you were here. Talk a
Definitely.
little bit about that. I mean, how for leaders, we talk about being fit to lead. Um, what are some things that you've learned? And then I want to ask you to give us some advice on some things that we could do as leaders to embrace. Let us learn from you. So first of all, start with some things that you've learned as you love to research this stuff, and
I
you
do.
can probably talk about it as much as you do gardening or cooking.
I could probably talk about it. Yeah, maybe more. I don't know. It's so fascinating to me. We have one body full of millions and millions and millions of cells, and they are working without us thinking about it all the time to keep us healthy. And I have learned so many things. I wasn't really super into science growing up, other than just like I liked being outside. I liked earth science, I guess. But the older I get, the more fascinated I become with the human body and the miracle that it is, how it is functioning on our behalf all the time. And so often we treat it so poorly. We put junk in and we expect that it's going to keep doing its thing. And a lot of the time it does. It helps us when we don't help it. So our body is really cool. Some things I've learned are, one thing is just more about our microbiome, which is the bacteria that is within our gut and on our skin, and how the things we put on our skin are just as important as the things we put in our body. Some of the chemicals that are around us and on us at all times, just like a lotion you put
In
on.
lotions, deodorants, creams,
Totally.
whatever.
Those can be really affecting the bacteria on your skin. So there's bad bacteria. A lot of the time people think about bacteria as bad. We need to sanitize it away. But the way our bodies were created was to have good bacteria living on our skin to protect us, to kill the bad bacteria. So that's something that's fascinating to me. Another thing that I've learned more about this, I would say in the last year and a half, is when I've really gotten into this more and more. So in the last year and a half, I would say I've also learned more about the value of vitamin D. So going outside, how our bodies function so much better when we have sunlight. And, a lot of people struggle with seasonal depression in the winter, and it's a lack of sunlight. Our vitamin D levels get so low in the wintertime. Without the sun, it's so easy to you feel that shift in your mood. I do. I love the summer. I mean, the heat's hot, but golly, like the winter without the sun is just brutal. So kudos to the people who are in the north. We love them.
Yeah, shout out to Catherine, your sister, who's living in Chicago, and it's early October, and she's already complaining about it being in the 40s. she's getting her an area on. That'll be good. So one of the things you would say then to leaders is go outside more, right? I mean, it sounds like that's something you would say we should have that built into our lives. Would you say that?
Yeah, daily routine, I would say. You should spend 30 minutes outside, 15 minutes outside minimum a day, every day. Whether it's going on a short walk, sitting on your front porch, just breathing air that's not been recirculated inside your house is really good for you.
Yeah, that's good. And even if you have a meeting, to have a meeting, an outside meeting, there's nothing wrong with that.
Totally.
Didn't you always like it when the teachers
class outside?
Oh,
the best.
Yeah, aren't those good days? And
totally. Every kid's favorite thing is recess and PE.
Yeah, exactly. I always like those.
Outside.
Outside, yeah. So let's talk a little more about that, because one of the things you have done your whole life is you have loved being outside. I mean, you really love being outside. I mean, it's like we never could find you. You're always out in the yard. You're, like you said, your pine cones and your all that stuff. And
yeah,
we go to the beach, and you just love being outside. What is it about the outside that makes you so happy? I mean, Not everybody likes to be outside.
It's true.
And you're not, I wouldn't say even you're the most extroverted person in the world at all, right? I mean,
there's bigger extroverts than me.
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
people. I love people, but
I know, but I'm just saying
some
there's
people
a lot of
really
people
love
that are,
people.
you say they're inside because they're an introvert, but that's actually not true. I mean, there's
Right.
things about the outside that have just been so, I would say, life-giving to you. Talk about that.
Yeah, totally. I don't know what it is. I just love being outside. I know everyone can't go outside all the time, and there are jobs where you really are confined to being indoors for most of the day, and that's okay, but I do recommend going outside, and just the feeling that it gives me. I love putting my feet in dirt. I love feeling water from a natural source. It just feels like you can feel that things are living around you. And I love that feeling. I love seeing the stars at night. I was just telling my husband Alex a couple of days ago, I miss seeing the stars. Durham has a lot of light pollution, and so at night you can't really see the stars that well. And
Now you're back
I
on
was
Lookout Mountain.
thinking,
You're ready.
yeah, I miss stargazing. I haven't done it in a while, and I'm excited to live in a place that's surrounded by mountains. You know, Chattanooga has just some gorgeous Smoky Mountains around it, and I want to camp. I don't know, something about it, just like talking about it makes me sound kind of like a crazy lady or something. I'm like, it's the outside, you know? So I don't know. I don't understand when people don't like going outside.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the reason I wanted you to talk about it is I think if we're not careful, we can get in a rut, same routine, and we do miss. I do think there's creativity that comes when we get outside. That's one of the reasons. I basically, this is my office. I live out here, and I love being out here. And there's just something about being surrounded by trees, listening to the birds sing, the dogs are barking, not the neighbors' dogs right on cue, and I think there's something about that we can put ourselves in different environments, and it can be helpful. You talked about your marriage. You've been married. How long you been married now?
2 years and change.
2 and change. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a little more than 2.
Yes, we got married in June of 2018.
Yeah, I remember I was there. That was cool.
He married us.
Yeah.
You married us.
I got to walk you down the aisle. It was a lot of fun. So if a young person's listening here and they are in a relationship, early marriage, or first couple of years, what are you learning? Give us a little marital advice. Help us out here on that.
Okay. A couple of things. I would say if you are not married and you want to be married, it is really hard to be patient. And I feel for those people, my heart goes out to them. I remember, just growing up in a culture where it seems like marriage is on a pedestal of like the thing you need to do and aspire to. And so it's really hard socially, to feel like you're ready for it and it's just not happening for you. So my heart goes out to those people. Just as best you can, be patient and work on yourself, and the right person will come along if you're meant to be married to someone.
Yeah.
So, and then I would say things I'm learning about within my own marriage. I think I've had to learn how to be more direct. I can be passive with people that I love because I don't want to hurt their feelings, especially if the person I'm communicating to is passive with their feelings. It's easy to just kind of dance around the issue. I can be direct with people who are direct with me, but I'm not good at being the direct one in kind of a dance. So learning how to do that well is something I'm still working on. Something that at the very beginning of our marriage, we had to figure out how to do was the typical roles of gender, like who is going to mow the grass or who's going to do the dishes, because we had different ideas about who was going to do those things. And so working through those things, I would say just communicating everything in not even just marriage, but life. Any kind of relationship with another person, you need to learn how to be a good communicator and to say what you really think, but to say it in a way that is loving and kind, and also learning how to not say what you think at the right times, because it is very valuable to be a good listener.
Okay. You don't need to always say everything you feel.
No, you don't.
That's good. Okay, so that's good advice, marriage advice. So give us some. Let's stay on the advice train here for a second. So we got some older leaders who are listening, people my age
Okay.
maybe, and they're leading people lots of times, not always. Sometimes the young people are leading older people, but a lot of times older people are leading younger people. What advice would you have for somebody my age who might be leading someone your age? Help me there a little bit. How can we be better?
I think there's a lot of different answers to this question. I think the thing that I value the most from older leaders is interpersonal relationships. So I don't want to be talked at, I want to be talked with. I want to know who you're married to, or what your dog's name is, or where you like to go and get coffee on the weekends, or those types of things. I want to know who you are. I don't want to.
As a person, not just a
Right. As
boss.
a person, I don't want to know my to-do list. I do want to know my to-do list, but even more than that, I want to have a relationship with you. And I don't know that every young person feels that way, but that's how I feel. So that's one thing I would say to an older generation. And then another would be to just trust young people. I think that there is a mutual distrust sometimes between your generation and mine, where the okay boomer sort of sentiment is that I don't really care what you have to say. And I think a lot of that comes from some of your generation treating my generation like we don't know what the heck we're doing, we're lazy, and we don't want to work hard, and we don't know what we're talking about. You've lived through more, so you know better. And I mean, humbly, I say your generation does know a lot more, but there's different things about my generation too that can add value to yours. So I think there needs to be a growth in a mutual trust between um, people who are my age and people who are your age.
Yeah, that's good. And go back to what you said a minute ago about communication. Some of it is just being willing to talk to each other and listen to each other. Maybe listen to each other more than we talk to each other.
Totally. Yeah. Be willing to tell someone, I don't really agree with that, but I hear what you're saying, and I want to learn from your life experience.
Yeah, that's good. So some of the leaders who are listening are actually parents that would be tuned in right now. And you obviously have grown up in our home. And one of the things I say, and one of the things I'm really trying to do is, and I encourage our leaders to live your life in such a way that the people who know you the best love you the most. They don't disrespect you. I mean, I know a lot of leaders, the people who know them the best, respect them the least. They don't trust them, or they don't, want to hear what they have to say. And there's lots that can go into this question. I know it's kind of loaded, but if a person is out there, and by the way, not in any way did we have this perfect little family. We've all had our moments, our struggles. It's great to be able to hang out and at this point, and I think we all still not just love each other, but we all like each other too, which is fun. But but if you could give advice to parents who are, they're raising that next generation, maybe not a generation at your age, but they've got, kids in elementary or middle school or high school, like what would you say to those parents if you could coach them a little bit? Like, you're on the kid side. Some
Okay.
of us have forgotten what it's like to be a kid.
Okay.
Give us
I
some
feel like
advice there to parents.
I feel like it's hard for me to give advice to parents because I'm like on the cusp of maybe one day becoming a parent. So it's easy for me to look at people who are just right in front of me and to think I wouldn't do it that way. And I don't think that's always fair because I don't know what it's like because I don't have a kid yet. But putting all that aside, my piece of advice is, or one piece of advice is that I think that children will really, really benefit more from turning their screens off. And if parents can get behind trying to shepherd their children into being outside or being inside, but not in front of a screen, like learning how to play and those types of things, I think.
And it's even a different world now than it was the one you grew up in.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
but
I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I feel like
Yeah.
I am so ill-equipped to parent within this new technology boom. As I'm sure you felt ill-equipped to parent in all of the things that were going on when you became a dad.
Yeah.
So, but I would say there's going to be huge value in the children who have had parents who really monitored screen time.
Mm.
And
It's crazy. I just read
Yeah.
this week that the average American now is in front of a screen about 12 hours a day, which is crazy. And it goes right to your point.
well, I mean, totally. I'm in front of a screen for hours a day because I work on my computer. And then after work, me and my husband want to watch a show on TV, and then I'm scrolling on my phone on Instagram, and I'm in front of a screen a lot. And I know the value of when I literally force myself to turn my phone off, because you can become addicted, and you can say, well, I'm not addicted. I just
do it all the time.
I just do it. I just like doing it, like I could turn it off. Well, then turn it off, and I'm telling myself this because I try to on weekends mute my Instagram, because I don't really struggle with seeing other people, and I feel like, oh, I'm comparing myself. I think that is something that is a huge problem. I feel bogged down right now, especially with everything going on in the world. You need to mute that. You need to turn that off and listen to other people around you and talk with them, or just have some time to yourself or with your family, That's what I think.
Yeah. Anything else you'd say to moms and dads?
You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
I would say keep it up. Children need you.
If you're providing a stable home for kids, that's heroic. It
Oh,
really is
yeah,
great.
totally. The people who are parents, if they're trying hard and they're doing their best, like I love them.
Yeah.
I love them so much, and I want them to know that they are doing a good job.
That's great. That's great. So, what you working on? You got any projects that you're working on? Anything that you're excited about coming up in the future? Anything you want to tell me about that I
Sure.
don't know as your dad? Like what's going on here?
Well,
I know you just moved.
I just moved. We are currently in an apartment, but we are looking for a house, and we are debating whether or not we want to buy a house to partially renovate. So that's kind of exciting.
Okay.
As a creative person, I feel very excited about the prospect of
Especially
that.
the demolition. You call me, I'll come bring that.
Exactly. My husband is not super let's build it ourselves, so it would be a big learning curve for both of us. But I think it would be a lot of fun. It's also kind of overwhelming thinking about, I have to find a contractor. I've never done that before. Or like, I have to find an electrician. You don't just have these people's numbers in your phone when you're in your 20s. So you have to figure out all these adult things. So, but that's kind of exciting. We're thinking about that. And then for work, we are starting creating for our spring collection of 2021, spring and summer. So I'm working on stuff for that. Product design.
You guys are branching out
graphic
beyond turtle stuff as well, and y'all are doing all kind of stuff.
Yes.
Community development wise, you're looking at that in the future.
Yeah.
Some fun
So
stuff.
we have been partnered with more than just the Sea Turtle Hospital. We've partnered with Chattanooga's local food bank, and we're trying to get a partner school right now that we can, do whatever they need. We just want to be helpful. The heart behind the company is really to give back in a way that only helps and does not hurt.
Yeah.
So
I think it's so cool. Y'all are trying to make the world better. It's great.
Yeah, that's really our mission, is to inspire people to do good.
Yeah, that's great. And which is really in line with what we're doing here as well. So where can we find you I know where to find you, but if they want to find you, are you out there on social media places they can connect with you? And then how about Shelly Cove, if they want more information there and how to find out your products and they want to support some of those causes, like give us, how do we find you?
Totally. So Shelly Cove you can find if you Google Shelly Cove. It is big enough, excitingly enough, it's big enough to where you could Google it and it'll pop right up on your search engines.
It comes up on my feed when I'm...
Yes.
And
then
I have no idea how.
It's on it's the internet. It's watching you.
I know, it's watching me.
We are on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you want to find Shelly Cove, you can find them. And then me, I am mostly just on Instagram at this point. If you want to find me, my @ is Rebekah Kerr, but I'm not a very good poster, so I don't know if I'm worth the follow. But
that's good.
I'm out there.
Well, thanks for joining us today. It's been great to hang out with you for a little bit. Have some coffee. I still love the mugs. It was great.
Thanks.
And we might let you have them back at some point, maybe.
Okay.
I'll leave them to you.
Okay.
So thanks for joining us this week. I hope today's conversation has reminded you of a few things. Number one, you have control over several things. One is your screen time. And I love what she's saying to the next generation. Hey, make sure you protect your kids from screen time. But I would just say, make sure you protect yourself from screen time. You may even be watching this on the screen right now. And if you are, that's great. But you don't need to be on that screen all the time. So some of the things Rebekah talked about, get outside, go for a walk. Don't be afraid to change your environment. Also, give yourself permission to not be perfect all the time. Really, there's a rhythm to leadership. There's ups and downs. There's seasons. And then one last thing that just jumped out to me as she was talking about, you put a seed in the ground, in the dirt, and you water it, and it begins to grow. And I would just encourage you to lead yourself like we talk about all the time. But don't forget that you are planting seeds in the lives of all the people around you. And the more you water that, the more you tend to that, the more, as she was saying, the more you listen to people and give them your attention, and not just be their boss, but be their friend. Be someone who doesn't just extract value from your people, but you're adding value to them. You're sharing your life. If you expect them to share who they are, you gotta lead the way and set the pace there. So let's don't be afraid to do that. And as we do, I'm confident that the world's going to be a better place. The world will get better when leaders get better. Let's make sure every single person is well led. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Randy Gravitt Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, we ask you to leave a review if you haven't already, and subscribe so you'll be alerted when we post new content. We also encourage you to share a link with your friends. Tune in Friday for another episode with a special guest leader. Now, go lead yourself first. Remember, leadership begins at home.